Yo, 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 guys, it is Old Man G here back again for a weekly, hopefully weekly, so this is long I can do it, top 10 United players weekly show where we basically go through what I think are the best players that performed for Manchester United over the last couple of weeks, just to build that positivity as we continue to go through 2021 and hopefully lead a title charge. But remember, if you're new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter, United X, and smash that notification button for latest Manchester United and Premier League news. Thanks to everyone, by the way, who tuned in to the community update. Really, really appreciate it and really taking all that feedback on board. And hopefully you'll see quite a lot of new and different content sort of going forward. So hopefully I'm going to make this quick because I'm going to be watching the Liverpool-Southampton game, hoping that Southampton get the dub over them. Kobe, shout out to you, bro. Hope you're doing well. So let's get into it. Let's get into who I think are the top 10 players for Manchester United this year. Like I said, let me know if you agree. The whole point of this kind of show is really to almost it's an appreciation, really. It's appreciation for the players that have obviously performed this week, and maybe to get your views and your opinions on actually whether you think that it's warranted or not. So let's get started, shall we? So number 10 right now is Harry Maguire. Now, this isn't solely because of Harry Maguire himself. I think that Bay playing alongside him has helped. But if I'm honest, he's looked good. He's looked good. And it goes to show you again how it's always about partnerships. It's always about partnerships. It's very difficult to actually judge centre-back sometimes if they're playing with someone that's they don't share the same chemistry, they don't share the same they don't complement each other's point from it, like Rio Ferdinand and Vidic, for example, like something like John Terry and Caballero. You need that complementary system there, and I just think that Harry Maguire does that with Eric Bailly, with a fast, quick centre-back. I certainly think he complements, out of all the three that we currently have, Eric Bailly, Victor Lindelof, and Twansibi, I certainly think that Eric Bailly complements Harry Maguire more. And you can see Harry Maguire in the air, carrying the ball. There's a lot more assurance, a lot more confidence that he's there, because it's kind of, okay, bro, I know that Bailly's there. I'm not the slowest tool in the shed, but I know that Bailly's there, who can basically be there, do a job, he can basically recover. So if I lose the ball or if the ball goes to the top, I'm not concerned. And I think that has actually brought out the best out of Harry Maguire. And in the last two games, certainly against Wolves, we've got a clean sheet. Against Aston Villa, I don't think that was personally his fault, to be fair. It was Aaron Wan-Bissaka's fault, who's not in this list, by the way, because honestly, Wan-Bissaka, for me, he's been one of the few Manchester United players that just has not really improved. But I'm not going to be talking about that. But Kieran Ramos says, do you think Maguire's finding up to his 80 million price tag? Ahmed says, thank you for stopping by, Ahmed. No, the local PSG fan. I'm going to get in touch, by the way, because I want to be doing some PSG stuff with you. So if you're watching, man, and if you're on Twitter, I'll be sending you a DM sometime soon. But in answer to Kobe's question, do you think Maguire's living up to his 8 million in price tag? I mean, to be fair to Maguire, it wasn't his fault. He wasn't the one that was like that slapped on 80 million price tag on his head. It was Manchester United prepared to pay 80 million. But what I would say, like I've said at the beginning of this, is that I think Harry Maguire is a good defender as long as he has someone that is quick next to him. And that's why he's on this list, because he's actually defended all right, to be honest. I mean, if you look at City, John Stones looks okay now that he's paired with Diaz, who's a solid defender. Whereas I feel that with, when you saw him paired with like Otamendi and various other ones that weren't that good, you could see he was flawed. And so for me, that's the thing with Maguire. Is he fundamentally, is he worth 80 million? No, I don't think he'll ever live up to an 80 million price tag, because the standard for 80 million is this defender has to be world class. However, does that mean that he can't be a good defender for Manchester United, someone that can potentially be part of a good centre-back pair going forward? Absolutely. It's just that you need to get that other centre-back needs to be on the level of Bailly or more. And the only issue with Bailly that we know is that obviously he's injury prone. But if you said Bailly and Maguire were going to be our two centre-back pairs going forward, and Bailly was going to play and was going to be fit for the rest of the season, that's fine. That's okay. That's good enough to challenge for a league, and certainly to be good enough in competition. It is what it is. So yeah, Harry Maguire at number 10 for me. And number 9, someone I still think, should get more and more appreciation is this guy. And it's Luke Shaw. He would be high up the list, but I just thought some of my attention, my appreciation should go to some of the other players. But this has actually been a good week, or good last couple of weeks in Manchester United. And I think one of the consistencies has been Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw's slide has almost been one of our best players of the season so far, in my opinion. Overall, solid defensively. Very, very solid defensively. So that's why I'm not our left side. I'm not worried about Luke Shaw. Pocketed Riyad Mahrez against Manchester City. Pocketed Adama Traore against Wolves. Solid. Fine. No, we have no issue from a defensive point of view. And even going forward, Luke Shaw, yes, Alex Telles gives the thing a bit more attacking-wise in terms of crosses, etc., especially if Cavani's in the box. But it's not like Luke Shaw is completely bereft of crosses or going forward. And certainly, I think Luke Shaw seems to work a bit better. If Marcus Rashford is playing on the left, I think there's a lot more chemistry between Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford so far than it is with Telles and Rashford. Because it seems like Telles is almost like crossing to find Cavani function, whereas Luke Shaw is like, right, I'm going to try and overlap with Marcus Rashford and get him involved in the game. Both two good left back options. It's good that we have those options, but he's a solid. He's been solid. He's been a solid left back for Manchester United this season. That's why going against the City, going against Liverpool on that left side, I'm not really that concerned, because I don't think City have enough to threaten Luke Shaw. And I don't think Liverpool have enough either. And that's been proved in the previous seasons. Down that left-hand side, we've been fine. The issue has always been down the middle, which I think is not an issue if Bailly is playing. And now down the right, because Wan-Bissaka is a bit... There's some issues with Wan-Bissaka right now. And again, big up to United for performing good after the spanking by PSG. Luke was actually decent versus... Yeah, I mean, but it's... What I guess I'm trying to say, is that like he's been like this for a while. It's because for me, it's always about consistency. It's always been about consistency. Like since he's been back from injury for this season, he's been like this. It's just that because he's not spamming in multiple assists, i.e. maybe like a Robertson, it's being overshadowed. Like people don't really see how solid he is. And I can see that when we've gone against the big teams, when we've been against Chelsea, when we've been against Arsenal, PSG, etc. Even when against PSG and Leipzig, when we lost those games, it wasn't down the left-hand side that they caused the problem. It was down the right-hand side. It was down the middle. It wasn't down Luke Shaw's, but from a defensive point of view. And I think that competition with Telles has helped. So for me, Luke Shaw, low-key, has been very solid, and long may it continue. And I think if we play against Liverpool, he's going to be on the starting sheet. He's going to be the first one there, because he pockets. I think it'll be Salah going down the right. So he'll have no issue against Salah. He won't. Number 8, David De Gea, man. David De Gea. Okay, certainly against Wolves, and definitely against Aston Villa, David De Gea made some clutch saves. And are we now starting to see a David De Gea that's like back to where, top keeper? I'm not going to say world-class level, but, prime David De Gea is the point I'm trying to make. Prime David De Gea, because David De Gea, I think there were certainly at least 2 in that Villa game where you're like, this guy is back. And one of the common trends I'm seeing when you're looking at our positions, when you're looking at midfield, when you're looking up top, when you're looking at goalkeepers, that when you bring in competition to a squad, players naturally improve. That's what happens. When you bring in competition to a squad, players naturally improve. And I think that now you've got Telles, Shaw's improving. Henderson coming in, De Gea is improving. So there is I feel that with the right back, and that's why in a separate transfer video, I feel like we actually need to get a right back, because you need to have competition, I think, to continue improvement. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the players currently right now in the positions that there are playing better, because there's competition in midfield, there's competition up front. You need to earn your spot, and people get frustrated when they're not playing. And I certainly think for David De Gea, that's helped massively this year. He's been very, very good, and my confidence in him. Before, you used to think, oh man, maybe give Romero a chance. What's going on? Bring Dean Henderson, etc. He's got a mistake. Now I can't even think. Maybe one, but basically, I think David De Gea, the confidence that was sort of lost in the last 2 seasons has now come back with David De Gea, and I just think that he's back to his best, and long may it continue, because we're going to need that when we come against the Cities, the Liverpools again, and if we're going to push for a title charge this season, we need a solid all-round keeper, and David De Gea, Ederson, Alisson are solid all-round keepers, So we need David De Gea at his best in order to perform, and obviously go forward. Ahmed says Wan-Bissaka is a good tackler but lacks position and knowledge. Yeah, that's the issue right now. And before, I used to think it was tactical, but one of the big issues, like even the goal against Villa, he's busy arguing about the free kick. It's taken quickly. He's out of position. The ball goes over, and it's a goal. And that's him. That's him. And his positional sense recently has not been great. He can't cross, really, which is a big problem at right back. So it's weird because like last season, you're like, this guy's arguably potentially our best player of the season because of how average our team was. Now you're like, he's potentially one of the worst because of how everyone else has stepped up. We've got people who can go forward and can cross on the other side. We've got people who, get that. There we go. We've got people who can tackle, can win the ball, etc. And I just think that either he needs a break, and I think part of that means that we need to get some competition in, and that's why if we get someone like Max Aarons in, that Norwichman, who is obviously quite good going forward. I think that might be the competition that Wan-Bissaka needs, in my opinion. Mo, so what happened to Henderson? Unfold him to be second choice. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. And remember, like the video, guys. Like the video if you're watching, guys. Please like the vid. It goes a long way. Keep the engagement up, as people say, whether that's liking the vid or posting comment at the end of the video. It really helps me a lot. So yeah, I think that the way that I kind of see it is that it was ridiculous to have to. Essentially, you've got 3 keepers. You've got Henderson, Romero, and David De Gea, and they're all on the equivalent of just under $1 million a week combined. It was ridiculous. It was kind of stupid of Manchester United to not let Romero go, for example. When we got Grant as well, who'd be third choice. So we should have let Romero go for some money, maybe to Everton or something. We didn't want to do that. We now have brought Henderson for competition, but then we're starting De Gea. We have obviously played Henderson as number 2 in the Carabao, but like I said, we're going to be playing the semi-final Carabao Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like he did with Romero, starts David De Gea instead of Henderson. He's going to do that. And Henderson, unlike Romero, is probably like, you know what, enough of this. I want to go. And so would I be surprised if he went out on loan? No. And I think that's probably the best option, to be honest. It was a stupid idea from the start of the season. I disagreed with it because fundamentally, David De Gea is going to play most of our games. There's no point. You can't develop if you're just going to spend time on the bench. It's as that. Like the vid, guys. Like the vid. Share and get involved. It goes a long way. Right, number 7, my man, Pastor Fred. Now, yes, he has dropped a bit compared to last week, but that doesn't take away the fact that Fred, for me, is so essential to how this team works. I remember reading a joke somewhere about how people saying that Fred is basically Fred and Kante basically switch bodies. Like the spirit of Kante is in Fred, and the brick of Fred is in Kante right now, because Kante looks bad, man. Kante looks so bad now. But Fred looks great, and it's no coincidence that in the games in the Champions League when he was absent, we ended up losing those games. He didn't play against Istanbul. He didn't play against RB Leipzig because he was suspended, and obviously in the second half of the PSG game, he's needed. And yes, we won games in the Premier League without him. We can beat teams without him, obviously, like I said, Sheffield United, but his just work rate, his tenacity, and his mobility helps us a lot. His recovery balls as well helps a lot, especially in that City game. I remember he did that quite a few times. And he's the type of player that I think Chelsea missed. If you watch the Chelsea City game, he's certainly that type of player that I think Chelsea missed actually in that game. There was no one really in that game City was just allowed to just bypass or boss Chelsea midfield as if it was nothing. No one was tackling, no one was covering, there was nothing. And that's how they're able to get so much control. And Fred, I think, is our maestro in that respect. And that's why he's there, and that's why he needs to play. Pastor Fred, man, needs to he needs to get more respect, I think, certainly for Manchester United fans, because this is a guy who we rely on, and it's painfully obvious when he's not around. Ahmed said, "Is it a good problem to have 3 good goalkeepers? Will Dean get the development?" Yeah, that's essentially what I said. So it's not. I suspect Dean will go out on loan in January, unless he's happy to be on the bench. And for me, Sergio Romero has to be sold to get some money. He should have been sold in the summer. He wasn't, which I think was stupid. But for me, going forward, that's what's got to happen. Pastor Fred. Pastor Fred. Right, moving on. Number 6, Anthony Martial. Okay, I can't be the only one that was really, really happy for Anthony Martial when he scored that fantastic, fantastic positional sense goal against Aston Villa. He's been getting a lot of stick. I'm still told by Chelsea fans that Timo Werner is better than Anthony Martial. Is he really? Really? Even Aubameyang, quite frankly. I mean, when was the last time Aubameyang scored? I think, can't remember. Someone remind me in the comments. But this guy, if this was Firmino, no one would bat an eye. But the fact is, Anthony Martial does that role and more to it because he's adding goals to it as well. So you don't really appreciate it because fundamentally, Martial and Cavani, especially you see that in that Wolves game, they needed service. They need the service. But playing that number 9 role is quite a difficult and laborious job, and it's not easy. Vardy can do it based on the system that as Kane can to a certain extent do it. So it's not an easy role. And Martial, for his hold-up play and what he brings to the team, I think deserves to be where he's in this list. So because if you just focus on what he's, I think. The best way to appreciate Martial sometimes, even though I believe he should score goals, is just don't look at the ball when you're watching a game. Just look at what's happening off the ball. Look at his runs. Look at the fact of how he's dragging defenders away from like say Bruno Fernandes or Marcus Rashford. Look at where he's going. Martial is a much more intelligent footballer, in my opinion, in that sense, and that might be because he's older. And so hopefully Greenwood and Marcus Rashford can get into it. But right now, he's certainly more intelligent in that sense than the other 3. He definitely has less intelligence than Cavani. But again, that could be a young thing. You just have to sort of get better at that as you age. But, making the right decisions, finishing and what have you, that's always on Anthony, and I think that's important. Damien, hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. So remember to like the video. Everyone is watching. It really, really goes a long way. Comment under the video. And we're on, I think, 2,700 subscribers. So road to 3K. Let's get going. Right, halfway through. An unsung hero of the last couple of games, Nemanja Matic at number 5. This guy. What do you say about Matic, man? Because can he play every single game? No. Sometimes he's non-existent. But again, much like Anthony Martial, there is the thing. How can I put this? Nemanja Matic is basically Manchester United's only DM, true proper defensive midfielder. in that he protects the back, obviously the centre backs, but also more importantly, his passing range, his passing distribution is just good. It's good. So the issue with Fred and McTominay sometimes playing that role is that their passing and their distribution is not great. They lose the ball sometimes, and they actually end up putting pressure on the centre backs. Although Fred is slightly better at doing it than McTominay. McTominay is not, and currently will not be, a CDM, but Matic is. And certainly in the game against, I think it was at Villa or Wolves. Like, I was like, bro, man, they're just giving United that stability. Damon says Matic is a useful brick. Why he's I would argue he's a much more your useful brick than N'Golo Kante right now, because Chelsea fans seem to want to think that Kante is that role, but he's not doing that role. Neither is Jorginho for that matter. Mo says Ollie is getting better picking the game for this match. Some games are just not for him because he's too slow. Yeah, but even if sometimes it's also about the players that you play with, and so one of the things I've noticed recently with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is that he's now understanding that certain players play well together and certain players don't play well together. Oh, I need to dip, bro. Keep up the good. Ahmed, thank you for stopping by. Really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is appreciating the fact that you have to. Oh, I'm gonna have to quickly hold up. That certain players work well together, certain players don't. So you don't play a midfield, for example, of Matic, McTominay, and Fred, or Matic and McTominay. That doesn't work unless you're forced to, but it doesn't work. So because of the squad depth that we have in our midfield, suddenly you're like, right, okay, well, I can play Matic and Pogba and Bruno. You know, that can work. I can play a diamonds that includes Matic, Fred, Pogba, and Bruno, or whatever. So I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is figuring out, finally complementing the players in the midfield and giving us stability. And I think that's basically what it is. So the man in match at number 5. Number 4, Marcus Rashford, man. And he's here not only because, see, this is the thing about Marcus Rashford, right? And this is why I guess it's a bit unfair as to why he's here. But the thing about Rashford, right, is that he can play poorly for games. And in the Leicester game, Wolves game, he didn't have the best of games. So, like, why is he 4th? Well, he's 4th because fundamentally, when push comes to shove, he always comes clutch. You know, most of the time he comes clutch. And that goal against Wolves could be a pivotal goal when it comes to the end of the season. Whether it's a title race or top 4, I'm not entirely sure yet. Right now, on a title race. At this point, you could argue it's a joint free title race, because I think you have to include, well, you know, right now, like, if I'm honest, we're talking about a title race. If you're within 6 points of top, you're in a title race. That's how I see it anyway. You know, usually within 6 points, because because that's essentially 2 games. So right now, most teams are in theory in a title race. Because let's be real, Spurs are only 4 points behind Liverpool. Leicester, I think, likewise, and so on. So every team that's within 6 points of Liverpool is within a title race, because all it takes is 2 games and suddenly you're in it again. If Liverpool drop points to Southampton today, for example, then suddenly Everton and all the rest of them are there. So, you know, and this time last season, Liverpool were 10 points clear of second. Fair enough. 4 points clear? Nah. Sorry, that's not a lead. It's not really 4 points. That's 4 points clear of was it Leicester or Spurs or whatever? Not even Manchester United at a level. So everyone right now is a lot of teams are in a title race right now. Is my point. And the whole point is that Marcus Rashford is so important. And I think Mo's hit on the head here. Rashford is almost important to us as Bruno, but some people just don't get it. And that is true. That's absolutely true. You know, and like I said, it's just because he keeps on going. He keeps on going. Yes, he gets frustrated, but he does keep on going. and the amount of clutch goals he scored, it's insane. You know, I go back to that Wolves goal. We needed that goal. Yes, it was deflection, but we got the win. And against Manchester City, again, you know, we're going to need him. We're going to need him. And stay tuned because we're going to be doing a preview for that tomorrow where Yannicka from Yan City TV, and it's going to be really, really good. We're going to get combined 11 and everything, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, Marcus Rashford number 4. Let me quickly speak on Bruno Fernandes is obviously number 3. I don't think I have to really say much about Bruno Fernandes, to be honest. I keep on repeating myself every single week. I know I should dedicate more time to this guy, but I do have to head off. But we have only lost 3 games in the league since Bruno Fernandes came to Manchester United. And those 3 games were this season in Palace, Spurs, and Arsenal. And personally, I think that 2 of those was due to fitness and being down to 10 men. I generally think that he's transformed this Manchester United side. And while he doesn't have the best games all the time, he's just so essential to this team to make things happen. And you can see that as soon as when you take Bruno and Rashford out of the team and you bring them in, we just play a different way. And it's a joy to watch. And I'm looking forward to the Anfield game. I'm hoping Ole Gunnar Solskjaer plays a strong team, but I'm looking forward to the Anfield game because how will Liverpool deal with a player like Bruno Fernandes? That's the enigma. Number 2, speaking about how we play, right? Bruno Fernandes obviously changed the way we play in terms of his creativity, his vision on the ball, and what he does. But Eric Bailly, a fit Eric Bailly, for me, is arguably the best centre-back in the league. If you had a fit Eric Bailly, an Eric Bailly that plays every game, he's arguably the best centre-back in the league. And I'm even calling over Van Dijk. I am. He is. He's arguably the best centre-back. A fit Eric Bailly is the best centre-back in the league. Because the recovery, pace, the positional sense, the ability in the air, as well as the idea of throwing his body on the line, that block against Villa won us the 3 points, as well as by his overall performance. And I don't think that, I think a lot of our fans are thinking of waiting for him to get injured. But I don't think people really appreciate. Yes, of course, if we're down to 10 men or, penalty, then it might be an issue. But I don't think our fans realize that if Eric Bailly's fit, it legit makes Manchester United a very, very dangerous side. A very, very, very dangerous side. It does. It really, really does. And the recovery pace of Eric Bailly, so many times in those 2 games, you see that teams, especially the low block teams that play the ball over the top, stop doing it. They stop doing it. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that since Bailly's coming into the team, that teams we played against have stopped doing the ball over the top motion because they know that won't work? Yeah, you can kick the ball over the top, but Eric Bailly's quick enough to get it. So they stop doing it. So they have to either work it through the flanks, usually right now going down the right-hand side to target Wan-Bissaka, or work it through the middle. But they're not doing as much balls over the top anymore. They're not. Because of this guy. And because of that, we can move further up the field. We can press, we can harass. So again, I'm comfortable when Bayer's there because finally we can actually go and potentially press this team and cause them problems because we've got the recovery pace of Bayer to basically get involved. That's my opinion anyway. Let's have a look. Rashford is important as Bruno, and he's a goddamn midfielder. Are you talking about Bruno? The bias is unreal. So about Bruno or Eric Bailly? If it's about Bruno, then I have no qualms in saying he's been one of the best. It was one of the best performers of the season, considering his goal contributions, his assists, and it's just about goals. Certainly since he's arrived, he has more of those than KDB. That's a fact. That's not up for debate. That's a fact, and it's painful to any rival fan the impact that Bruno Fernandes has had. As far as if it's Bay being the best, in my opinion, being the best, again, the key emphasis is the word fit. Fit Eric Bay. So I don't think he is, because Eric Bay can't stay fit for 38 games a season or even close to that. He can't. But if he was fit, yeah, I think he would be. What? And he's a good. It's about Bruno. No, yeah. Like I said, I think that Bruno. I think for me, Bruno's one of the best. I do. Lauren Krasnaki says Bruno is one of our most important players we have ever had. He can have a very bad game, still get and see, for me, that's the key thing here. Really, is that Bruno can have a bad game, a terrible game. He can be ass and still get a goal or an assist. You know, people talk about Fernandes and stuff like that as well, penalty merchant, etc. But at the end of the day, you've got to score your penalties, and key penalties, key moments. You got to score them. Jorginho against Arsenal, if he scores that penalty, you never know. Chelsea might be getting back in the game. He misses it. No one talks about players that miss their penalties. We only talk for some reason about players that score them. It's very, very strange. Joining a daily group home to keep. Bro, man. And for those remember, for those watching, like the vid. It goes a long way. I'm gonna have to round this up in a second, but yes, I'm definitely doing that as well. Hope you keep the same manager of the City, man. All these hype up CBs will get exposed and being isolated. Bruno not even 20% KDB. Well, two issues with that. Number one, City, as far as we were, not playing with outright number 9, so I don't really know how they're going to get exposed, because you played against City at Old Trafford. It's at Old Trafford, and you didn't really cause any problems, and that was with Lindelof, if I recall. I think it was Lindelof and Maguire in that City game. If you're not playing with outright number 9, I don't really know how that's going to be a problem, really. Even Aguero coming in is not going to be that fit against, Aguero against a really pacey Eric Bay, who's been playing multiple games and is arguably fitter. I don't know how they're going to get exposed. The only reason I see it getting exposed is actually through the right-hand side, which I've got no doubt about that, via Wan-Bissaka and his positioning. But through the left and through the middle, I don't think so. As far as KDB, Bruno not even 20% of KDB, this season, Bruno is clear. There's no doubt about that. This season, Bruno is clear. If you're talking about in general, since the Premier League, yes, of course, KDB is better. But we're talking about this season, Bruno is clear. Like, statistically, there's no debate. Assists, goal contributions, goals, he's clear. And it's and obviously, based on the fact of the table, we are above you in the table. It is what it is. Right, I'm going to wrap up. Honorable shout out before I get into my first player of the season. Honorable shout out to Steve Bruce, by the way. Shout out to Steve Bruce. Shout out to Steve Bruce. Shout out to Steve Bruce. Shout out to Steve Bruce, because former Manchester United legend was able to get the dub over Liverpool, even though everyone said he couldn't. Everyone I spoke to said he'd be bantered, he'd be flopped. The Liverpool were going to just destroy Newcastle St. James's Park. And I said, no, St. James's Park is a difficult place. You don't know. He got the draw, and he's the main reason. So he's actually in my top 10. He's not first, but he's in the top 10. As honorary, I'm going to do these honorary players. Honorary players are going to come in that I feel have contributed to Manchester United a week. And former ex-player Steve Bruce giving us United that dub, because of that dub, United went on and beat Villa and are now joint top. So shout out to Steve Bruce. Once a red, always a red. Brilliant man. Mo says, one in his first 30 games only, Andy Cole has more goals and assists than Bruno in the history of... first 30 games only, Andy Cole has more goals and assists than Bruno in the history of Bruno. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. And very underrated, Andy Cole. Ask Chelsea. I wouldn't really go by Chelsea, to be honest, because Lampard is a fraud, really. I think it should be clarified out by now. And to be honest, I don't think a lot of Chelsea players are particularly hyped. And also, I mean, maybe this is my opinion about it, but I think the reason why Chelsea lost that game is that, like, the formation, tactical-wise, they didn't really fit. You essentially played a 4-2-3-1, loosely, and they didn't fit that frame. They played a 4-3-3, and they didn't really know how to match you. I know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will match. Essentially, what I'm saying is, like, if they played two holding midfielders and Giroud, it would have probably been a more a balanced game, especially when using crosses, etc. But I want to go into delegating that game. Essentially, what I'm saying is that Ole will match you, and it'll be a lot closer as it was at the Etihad, in my opinion. Right, quickly going on to number one, and it's my guy, Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba again with the number one spot. Again, for Manchester United. Paul Pogba's influence in both of those games, the Villa and the Wolves game, was immense. Yes, he didn't get an assist or goal, but bro, Paul Pogba, man. I don't want Pogba to leave. I don't want Pogba to leave. Everyone knows I don't want Pogba to leave. But I really, 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 really hope that, that potentially United challenging or maybe even winning, who knows, the league, would convince this guy to stay. Because obviously Van de Beek's on the bench. We'll see what he does, but you just can't replace a player like Paul Pogba. Van de Beek is there, I guess, and obviously Grealish is showing why he's such a good player. And I certainly think that if Pogba goes in the summer, you use the money to go and buy Jack Grealish. That's what you do. But for me, yeah, Max, I love this JD. Well, no problem. I'll be back after the game. The only thing I'll say, last comment on this JD, is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has played, I think, Pep Guardiola 6 times now. Yeah, 1 time in his first, then 4 times, and then 1. He's won 4, drawn 1, and lost 1 against Pep, and that was in the first Carabao Cup fixture. 6, 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. It's clear to see who has the better record against who. That's all I'm saying. Love you, JD. Love you. But yeah, Paul Pogba, man. Paul Pogba's in the one spot, and you can't replace this guy. And the vision, the ability, the giftedness of this player is second to none. And for all the stuff of his age and everything that's been going around, Paul Pogba, for me, is still one of the most fundamental players at this football club. And I just hope and I just pray that something can be arranged in April and May where the positivity, the hype, the togetherness of this football club can somehow change his mind so he can sign another contract. Especially if he's getting played, he's getting game time. Because I don't think there's any coincidence that he's constantly being played, etc. That's my sense anyway. So for me, number 1 goes to Paul Pogba. He is, in my opinion, the best performer this week. Right, guys. So thank you guys all for watching. I do have to head off now, but remember, if you're new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter United X and smash that notification button for United news. Please like the vid. Please get in the comments below as well. It does a lot for the YouTube algorithm. I have to fight the YouTube algorithm, so get your comments below in the video. It goes a long way. Stay tuned for more shows. Have a nice day, everyone.